Good morning, everyone. Paul Ripple here with Fox 29 News Now. I want to get you straight out to a news conference that's occurring at the Department of Justice in Washington, D.C. This is Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein speaking about the enforcement in an international hacking and scamming ring. Let's listen in.
The Port of San Diego, California, and the Colorado Department of Transportation. In addition, the defendants infected the computers of 6 healthcare-related businesses and from across the country, impairing the ability of those companies to provide healthcare to sick and injured patients. The defendants chose to focus their scheme on public entities. They specifically are alleged to have chosen public entities as the targets of this fraud scheme, hospitals and municipalities. They knew that shutting down those computer systems would cause significant harm to innocent victims and would maximize their leverage, their ability to extort those ransom payments from the victim organizations. The indictment alleges that the defendants demanded payments in the form of a virtual currency known as Bitcoin. Bitcoin contributes to the increasing sophistication of criminal schemes that our prosecutors and agents confront. It is a common currency for criminal schemes, including websites that distribute child pornography and deadly opioid drugs, as well as ransomware and other tools used for extortion. The defendants allegedly communicated using the Tor network, an encrypted computer network designed to facilitate anonymous communication over the internet. I want to make clear that we support the use of encryption to safeguard private information and to protect security for American citizens, businesses, and government agencies. But this case highlights one of the challenges that law enforcement faces as a result of encryption that is designed specifically to disrupt law enforcement. I'm grateful that you're going to hear from Amy Hess, who is one of the FBI's leading experts on the challenges that the government faces as a result of encryption technology. Sophisticated encryption technologies like the Tor network are used by cyber criminals to commit serious offenses. Those sophisticated technologies pose a real threat to the government's ability to keep people safe and to ensure that criminals and terrorists are caught and brought to justice. I think it's important for us as law enforcement professionals to highlight that issue for the American people and for legislators to understand the challenges that we face. Now, we are often able to overcome them, as we have in this case, but in some cases we're not. And even when we are, it often takes time and significant resources in order for us to overcome those encryption techniques. Every sector of our economy is the target of malicious cyber activity, but the events described in this indictment highlight the urgent need for municipalities, public utilities, healthcare institutions, universities, and other public organizations to enhance their cybersecurity. And that's one of our goals this morning, is to use this opportunity to get out the word to potential victims, and everybody with a computer system is a potential victim, but particularly to those public entities, hospitals, healthcare providers, organizations that are vulnerable to this kind of scheme. We need to make sure they take all possible precautions to protect their systems in advance, but perhaps even more importantly, to make sure they have backups, because we found that some victims in this case were able to recover their systems if they had the appropriate backups, even though the perpetrators allegedly took steps to try to encrypt even the ability to back up those computers. So publicly revealing this nefarious hacking scheme will make it harder for the perpetrators and others like them to do business in the future. As a result of the indictment, these defendants are now fugitives from American justice. And American justice has a long arm, and we will wait, and eventually we're confident that we will take these perpetrators into custody. They face arrest and extradition to the United States in many nations that honor the rule of law. We call on all nations, all civilized nations, to prevent their citizens from using the internet to perpetrate fraud schemes in foreign countries. We do that here. We hold people accountable if they try to perpetrate fraud schemes elsewhere, and we expect foreign countries to do the same with citizens in their country. By making clear that criminal actions have consequences, we deter schemes to victimize the United States government, businesses, and citizens, and we help to protect foreign allies. I should add, as in every case, that the particular defendants charged in this indictment are presumed innocent in court of law. They are presumed innocent unless and until they are proven guilty in a court of law. The allegations in this indictment are only allegations. The case demonstrates our department's commitment to identifying and prosecuting cyber criminals, regardless of where they base their operations. And that's one of the reasons why for providing a photograph. We have a photograph of one of the defendants, and obviously the names of both of them, which will help to identify them and hopefully ensure that they are taken into custody and held accountable. We are grateful for the outstanding work and collaboration between American and international law enforcement partners in this investigation. In particular, I want to thank 2 United Kingdom agencies and 2 Canadian agencies. In the UK, the National Crime Agency and the West Yorkshire Police, and in Canada, the Calgary Police Service and the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. In the Justice Department, in addition to folks who are with me today, our National Security Division and our Criminal Division's Office of International Affairs also provided critical support. And now I'd like to invite our Assistant Attorney General for the Criminal Division, Brian Benczkowski, to give some remarks.
Thank you, Rod. This case is another example of the hard work being done here at the Department of Justice every day, where we continue onwards with business as usual, working with our law enforcement and U.S. attorney partners around the country. What's not business as usual is the conduct in this case. The indictment announced today is the first ever indictment against criminal actors for deploying a for-profit ransomware hacking and extortion scheme. And as the deputy noted, the 2 defendants, Mr. Savandi and Mr. Mansouri, both operating in Iran, authored and deployed a sophisticated malicious software called the SamSam ransomware to hack into networks and encrypt the computers of entities in the United States, including hospitals, schools, companies, government agencies, and other entities. The list is long. The City of Newark, the Colorado Department of Transportation, the Nebraska Orthopedic Hospital, Lab Corporation of America, MedStar Health, and the Port of San Diego are just a few of the victims in this case. The defendant's objective allegedly was to prevent these victims from accessing or using data on their compromised computers, which would force them to shut down and dramatically curtail their operations. According to the indictment, the defendants then extorted ransom payments from their victims by threatening to withhold or otherwise delete the decryption keys needed to unlock the data. For example, on May 28, 2016, the defendants allegedly accessed the network of Kansas Heart Hospital and deployed the ransomware to encrypt the hospital's computers. They then extorted the hospital by demanding a ransom payment in Bitcoin in exchange for the decryption keys to unlock the data. According to the indictment, the defendants conducted online searches concerning the hospital and accessed its website a few days before the attack. This was just one alleged example of the defendants' efforts to select and target their victims. These defendants didn't just indiscriminately cross their fingers and hope their ransomware randomly compromised just any computer system. Rather, they deliberately engaged in an extreme form of 21st century digital blackmail, attacking and extorting vulnerable victims like hospitals and schools, victims they knew would be willing and able to pay. As the deputy noted, the defendants allegedly hacked and extorted more than 200 victims and collected more than $6 million in ransom payments. Victims also incurred an additional $30 million in losses because of their inability to access their data. The specific charges in the indictment unsealed today in the District of New Jersey charged Savandi and Mansouri with 1, conspiracy to commit wire fraud, 2, conspiracy to commit fraud and related activity in connection with computers, 3, intentional damage to a protected computer, and 4, transmitting a demand, the ransom request, in relation to damaging a protected computer. And as the DAG noted, these defendants, as a result of this indictment, are now fugitives from justice. This case demonstrates the Department of Justice's commitment to identifying and prosecuting cyber criminals wherever they choose to base their operations. We'll continue to work together with our law enforcement partners here in the United States and around the world, along with victims, to gather evidence and build cases to ensure that there are no safe havens for cyber criminals to operate. And most importantly, and you'll hear in more detail from my colleagues on the stage, we want to get the word out, the word that every sector of our economy is a potential target of malicious cyber activity. The events described in this indictment highlight the need for businesses, healthcare institutions, universities, and other entities to emphasize cybersecurity, to increase their threat awareness, and to harden their computer networks. Before I turn it over to U.S. Attorney Craig Carpenito to discuss the charges in more detail, I'd also like to extend the same gratitude that the DAG extended to our law enforcement counterparts in the UK and Canada, the National Crime Agency, the West Yorkshire Police, the Calgary Police Service, and the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, along with a team of FBI investigators and the two outstanding young prosecutors behind me, Justin Herring and Bill Hall, for their great work on this case. Craig, it's over to you, and it's great to be here with you today.
I'm going to just underscore a couple of the points that Deputy Attorney General Rosenstein has already made, as well as AAG Benzikowski. SamSam ransomware is a dangerous escalation of cybercrime. Most cybercrimes are at bottom about theft. This is a new type of cyber criminal. Money is not their sole objective. They're seeking to harm our institutions and our critical infrastructure. You heard the sensitive targets that were targeted here: hospitals, cities, transportation centers, our ports. They're trying to impact our way of life. They're hitting the most critical targets because they want to maximize their profits, but they're also trying to maximize the damage that they can do. And the damage that's being done to these victims, that it's going to impact upon our society, is more than just a side effect of the profit motive. In this case, the harm far exceeded the profit the perpetrators were able to generate. You heard from AAG Benzikowski. They generated approximately $6 million in profits in ransom. They did well over $30 million in damage to about 15% of the victims alone. There were over 200 victims here. 34 victims alone amounted to about $30 million in damage. They worked hard to identify the most vulnerable targets that they could. They targeted victims. They did online research. They looked for the institutions that could afford least to have downtime. They shut down businesses. They were able to, over time, perfect their art. They got better at this every day. Right? What they did was they found ways to not just infect the system, but to get into the backups, to get to the maximum number of computers. They used techniques like doing this in off-business hours so that they could hit these vulnerable institutions at points in time where their IT infrastructure wouldn't be able to respond, detect, or prevent the attacks in real time, getting to the maximum number of computers and hopefully getting to the backup tapes. They used sophisticated techniques. The encryptions that they did were targeted and they scanned for known vulnerabilities using European-based private servers to launch their attacks. By crippling regular business operations, they put these institutions in a spot where they really couldn't fight back without paying the ransom. And after encrypting, the extortion was perpetrated by leaving a ransom note in the form of a file on each of the computers. The ransom notes usually threaten to permanently delete the description keys for the victim's computers after days. A copy of one of those ransom notes is attached as attachment A to the indictment. That's for this City of Newark ransomware case. They used Bitcoin exchangers to convert their ill-gotten gains into Iranian rial. And the main reason we're here talking about this today is because the public plays an important role in the department's ability to investigate, detect, prosecute these crimes, and importantly, educate people about the type of impact and the type of risks that are out there. Individuals or institutions who believe they may have been a victim of a ransomware attack should contact law enforcement immediately. Law enforcement can help victims understand what happened, share information about related incidents or malware, and ensure proper investigation and preservation of evidence. That type of education is the best defense to make sure that these perpetrators don't continue in their efforts. The District of New Jersey would like to thank the DAG for its continued commitment to the investigation and prosecution of emerging cybercrime. I'd also like to thank AAG Benzikowski and his team at CSIPS for their collaboration on this prosecution. But finally, most of all, I think we should thank AUSA and the chief of my cybercrime unit, Justin Herring, and his colleague, Bill Hall. These are the talented young prosecutors who work on these cases that make them possible. Their unwavering dedication to rooting out cyber criminals is incredible, and without resources like this, we couldn't get these cases done. These are some of the most difficult cases to pursue, the difficult cases to figure out. And finally, I want to thank the Special Agent in charge of the Newark Division's FBI office, Greg Erie, and his team of outstanding agents from the FBI, who I see in the back, who've doggedly pursued these perpetrators, through thick and thin for the past 2 years. Without them, none of this would be possible.
Good morning. I'm Amy Hess for the FBI. Today's actions charging 2 Iranian cyber actors with launching the SamSam ransomware are the latest in a series of indictments of overseas cyber criminals. It illustrates the continuing trend of malicious cyber activity emanating from Iran. As cyber threats evolve and cyber criminals develop more sophisticated techniques, so do we. The criminals believe they were masking their identities on the dark web. However, this case shows that anonymizers may not make you as anonymous as you think you are. They use Bitcoin to avoid detection, but this case shows that digital currency can be traceable, and through our valued partnerships, not just with our great law enforcement partners in the U.S. and abroad, but with our partners in private industry and with the victims of these crimes, we will find criminals and hold them accountable. Through persistence and collaboration, we'll disrupt not only the criminal activity, but also the ill-gotten livelihood of these actors. Apprehending those charged today presents a challenge, for sure. But I want to be clear, regardless of where a criminal resides, we will pursue. We will make traveling, business relations, and networking painful for those who commit these acts. We will stay on the case, and we will catch them when they slip up. This investigation began because a victim came forward and reported the crime to the local FBI field office. And the case continued through the courage and cooperation of many other victims. I cannot stress enough the importance of reporting cybercrimes. If you're a victim, you're encouraged to report directly to your local FBI field office and online through ic3.gov. We understand that companies and institutions are under immense pressure during and after cyber attacks and may be reluctant to report breaches. The FBI can help by providing you with information you didn't already have and preventing you or someone else from becoming a victim again. This indictment is a culmination of a lot of hard work by the men and women of those agencies represented here today. And I also want to thank our partners in the United Kingdom and Canada. We'll continue to work with our partners in law enforcement and in industry and use every tool at our disposal to fight cybercrime. We all need to do our part to make sure that our systems are as strong, as secure, and as protected as possible. Clearly, there is no guarantee against exploitation, but we can't stress enough the importance of good cyber protocol and preventative measures. The FBI has posted guidance on ic3.gov that can help you secure your information. And we must do whatever we can together to stop these criminals, to make ransomware less profitable, and to keep our networks, our information, and our people safe. Thank you.
Nicole Lavis is our OK expert on this topic. She'll be holding questions today.
Mr. Witkowski, can you tell us to what extent was there any connection between these two and the government of Iran?
There's nothing of that sort that's alleged in this indictment.
Yeah, hi. I wanted to follow up on a comment that Dag made before he left about how even though they're located in Iran, he seemed very confident that at some point you may be able to extradite them. I mean, what led him to say that? I mean, these folks that tend to travel up to countries that have an extradition treaty with the United States, as far as you know, or why is he so confident about that?
I think we're always hopeful in these circumstances that we'll be able to catch them in travel or by some other means, and we'll work with entities like Interpol to file our red notices to restrict their travel, and hopefully if they slip up, we'll pick them up and we'll be able to get them back here and prosecute them.
Could you tell us a little bit more about the Atlanta case? What happened in that case specifically that you find that was maybe out of the norm, and did Atlanta pay up?
We have not in the indictment, and I can defer at some point to get into greater detail about Atlanta in as much as we're able to. We have not in the indictment noted at which of the victims paid and which ones didn't. Atlanta was a case where their systems were compromised and encrypted, as I understand it, for several days. And you can imagine in a municipality the kind of things problems that would cause.
I assume this, just related to that, I assume the Atlanta case is the same case where it became public and was reported on. Is that right?
I believe so.
Amy, may I ask you a question? What is the I understand your prevention message here, which is obviously very important. But for those for whom it fails and they are compromised and they are hit with ransomware, what is the FBI's advice on whether they should pay the ransom?
Clearly, companies are encouraged, victims are encouraged to not pay the ransom. It's understood that they have a lot at stake, but by doing so, of course, it exacerbates behavior and encourages others to do the same. So our message continues to be encouraging companies and victims to not pay.
Can I follow up on that?
Sure.
What if they don't pay the ransom and they don't have backups? They lose their data, and the value of that data may far exceed whatever it is that they're asked to pay the ransom.
Yes, and again, we encourage companies and victims not to pay. Clearly, they have a lot at stake, but we encourage them not to pay.
When they do pay, do they get everything opened up again? Does it work?
Not always, and that's the other risk that the companies and the victims face, is because just because you pay doesn't mean that the criminals are going to actually do what they said they would do.
But in the $6 million worth of ransom, did they get their data back? Last question. Did they get their data back when they paid their ransom?
I can't comment to that at this time.
We'll take a question from Kevin and then Jeff here.
What portion of the victims came to you to report that they had been victimized versus what you discovered later on that they may have been victims that you found out on your own?
As far as how many victims came to us directly versus how many we found out about, I can't get into the exact numbers at this time, but basically it was a combination of both.
So are we still in a situation where the majority of cities and companies do not report ransomware attacks?
I would say that it's getting better because as most companies and victims now see this continuing to be a problem and a trend, they're more likely to come forward, first of all, to prevent an attack to happening to themselves again, but also to prevent an attack from happening to someone else. So I would say that we are seeing an increasing number of reports that are coming to us.
But most aren't.
Yes, at this time, I would say, and again, I don't know of course, we don't know what we don't know, so we don't know how many might be out there. I would surmise that it is probably not the majority yet, but we are seeing an increasing number, increasing trend.
We'll take one more question. Mike?
Just to follow up on the question earlier, did any municipalities pay the ransom at all of these victims?
We're not going to come.
Yeah, it's the same answer.
Yeah.
Same answer, which is the indictment doesn't contain any information like that, and we're not able to talk about that.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
If anyone has any follow-up questions or technical, we have our prosecutors here I can talk to or our background. There's also a Treasury Department press release that relates to this announcement.
Yeah,
right, it's relating to financial.
You've been watching a news conference where the Department of Justice was announcing charges against 2 individuals from Iran. They're accused of executing they've been indicted for deploying ransomware to extort hospitals, municipalities, and public institutions, causing over $30 million in losses. Among those targets of that case were the city of Newark, the city of Atlanta. There were hospitals mentioned there as well. This was a 34-month-long international computer hacking and extortion scheme involving the deployment of sophisticated ransomware, according to Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein, who you saw speaking there initially. It's a 6-count indictment and alleges that the 2 gentlemen named, the 2 suspects, Faramars Shahi Savandi and Mohammed Mehdi Shah Mansouri, the latter being 27, the first being 34, that they, from acting from inside Iran, authorized malware known as SamSam ransomware, capable of forcibly encrypting data on the computers of victims. And according to the indictment, starting in December 2015, they would then allegedly access the computers of the victim without authorization through security vulnerabilities, install and execute the ransomware on computers, and that resulted in the encryption of data, and then they wanted money to undo the damage that they had done. You may have seen briefly pop up there. I'm recording to show you in a little bit First Lady Melania Trump doing a sit-down conversation. We'll bring that to you a little bit later. In the meantime, I want to get you to some current, more recent news. Let's see if I have all the clips here that I want to show you. I'm not sure if I do. Let's go live to the event where Melania Trump is speaking. Here is some more information about that. She is speaking at Liberty University's Convocation. It's featuring a town hall discussion of America's opioid crisis. Again, this is Liberty University in Lynchburg, Virginia. Let's listen in to the conversation as it's happening.
Kind.
Are you listening?
And also, sometimes you need to fight back. I'm sorry.
Are you listening? All right. They want me to go to some audience questions, but I have to ask these first. I got the First Lady. We all want to know. So, a typical night in the White House. President Trump is finished with the work for the day. He comes down. They turn on the TV and sit around and just watch some TV together. What's that night like? What's the White House like at night?
We are very, very busy. We have our own schedules. I'm very busy. He's very busy. In the evenings, we got together, try to have a dinner together, and just talked what's happened through the day, and then go on with the schedule that we need to do. So when you're First Lady, it's no free time.
No free time? Well, that was my next question. You have a staff of chefs and people who are preparing meals for your family. Do you ever say, hey, you got the night off, let me get in there and get my hands dirty and maybe make a casserole or something?
Not really, but we can do that maybe in the future when I'm a little bit less busy.
Second term, we'll do that in second term, right? One question I have to ask you. If you were to write an autobiography, what's it about? What's the title? What's it about?
I don't have a title yet. I didn't even think about it. I just think I could have many books, what's going on in my life. So I don't think that about yet. I want to be focused on what I can do and help the people of the United States and around the world, and that is my priority.
Very good, very good. Okay, let's get some questions. Your future, your questions, right? First question is from Mary Alice. Oh, okay. It's not Mary Alice. You Christian?
Yes, sir.
First question will be from Christian. Go ahead, Christian.
Hi, Madam First Lady. Thank you so much for coming today. You touched on speaking with Barron about opioid addiction. As a mother yourself and leading example to countless mothers in the country, what kind of advice would you give to other moms in the way that they should approach a conversation with their kids about opioid addiction?
I think the education is the most important, and talk with the children and see what's going on in their life, who their friends are. Very important to stay on top of them so they don't go in the wrong direction. That can happen very, very quickly.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we'll take another audience question. Is this Alex?
Yes, it is.
Go ahead, Alex.
Thank you so much for being here today. My name is Alex. You've been quoted saying, if you're fighting addiction, you should not be ashamed. What are some other ways we can show compassion to those who are fighting drug addiction?
We need support. We need to support people who are addicted and to get rid of stigma that comes with opioid addiction. We need to be there for them. We need to support them and talk to them, of course, to get professional help as well. To encourage them and see in themselves their positive character and what they could do with themselves in a positive way. But to be there for them and love them and whenever they need you.
Okay, Mary Alice has a question.
Thank you so much for coming to speak to us. My name is Mary Alice, and my question is, why did you first choose to focus on the issue of opioid abuse, specifically babies that are born addicted?
We need to educate and teach young mothers how dangerous the drugs are. While you're pregnant and if you use drugs, your baby could be born with neonatal absence syndrome. And it's a lot of challenges later on when they grow up. So education, very important to young women, to young men, so they know later in life how to handle it.
Great questions, and I think one of the most important things we have going on here is creating awareness and removing the stigma of opioid addiction and use and abuse. And I think because we have the First Lady here, we're going to really start to remove that stigma and save some lives. We're fortunate because First Lady's sticking around, and we have a lot more coming up. Don't go away.
Don't go away. More with the First Lady and Homeland Security Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen, along with Health and Human Services Secretary Alex Azar, on opioids, a national crisis at Liberty University.
You're watching a town hall that's occurring at Liberty University's Convocation. It's featuring a town hall discussion of America's opioid crisis. That you saw First Lady Melania Trump there speaking, taking questions, and giving some responses. Some of the questions came from the audience, some from the moderator there. It appears this is a broadcast that they're conducting also, so you heard they're tossed to a break there, and it appears that they are currently taking a break from their broadcast. Let's take a quick break from there and get you a current look at the stock market. Tell you a little bit about what's going on here. Word came today that the U.S. economy expanded at a solid 3.5% annual rate in the July-September quarter. That's led by lower but still strong consumer spending and more business investment than previously estimated, according to the Associated Press. The Commerce Department's figure for gross domestic product, GDP, released Wednesday was the same as its first estimate last month. GDP is the broadest measure of the nation's output of goods and services and covers everything from home building to haircuts. Greater corporate investment offset downward revisions in spending by state and local governments and consumers. The third quarter figure follows a robust expansion of 4.2% in the April to June quarter. 6 months of healthy growth have put the U.S. economy on track to expand in 2018 at its fastest pace in 13 years. Still, economists forecast that growth will slow in the fourth quarter and decelerate further next year. So there is a quick look at the stock markets. You see the market right now is up about 2/3 of a percentage point, 164 points. Good for 24,913, hovering a little below the 25,000 mark. Let's get you back out to First Lady Melania Trump's event here at Liberty University. Let's listen in.
Absolutely got involved. I made one phone call. HHS Secretary said, yes, I want to get involved. I made one phone call. DHS said, yes, I want to get involved. This is a crisis that these people truly do care about. Mr. Secretary, let's talk a little bit about, you come from a pharmaceutical background. Talk to us a little bit about what the First Lady mentioned of overprescribing, availability of opioids on the U.S. market.
Well, this is one of the things I want to make sure all of you who are here today and who are in the audience know is, just as the First Lady said, how easy it is to become addicted to opioids. You may have an image in your head of somebody like in the 1970s image of opioid addiction. That's not what we're dealing with today. The majority of people who become addicted to opioids today were prescribed a legal painkiller for wisdom teeth, for a knee surgery, something like that, and they were prescribed too many, or they took too many. They became addicted for reasons we don't understand. Somebody may take 9 days of them and become addicted, and another person is perfectly fine, and we don't know why that is. You've got to be extremely careful. You've got to seek help if you see yourself or a loved one getting into that situation, because that's how folks are getting into this trap, is these legal opioids initially. The great news is, under the President's leadership, since January of 2017, legal opioid prescribing is down over 23%, and what we call the morphine milligram equivalence is down 28%.
Can you expand on that a little bit? How does that work?
So what it means is fewer of these pills are getting prescribed by doctors now. Fewer of those pills getting prescribed means fewer of you are going to have the chance to become trapped in this cycle of addiction. And so that's a huge accomplishment. The president committed that by the end of his term, we'd reduce that by a third, and he's already delivered 23% reduction.
So one of the other issues that I think is very, very important in tackling this epidemic is not only the availability, but the awareness side as well. Now, talk to us. I was at a bill signing with the First Lady and the President where $6 billion was appropriated for, among other things, awareness. How are you getting the word out on awareness and recovery and addiction help?
So we've got ads out. I hope you've seen them that frankly ought to scare you about the risks of opioid addiction, the risks of how you can fall into this trap. The other thing that we're trying to make sure folks understand, and the First Lady said this in her remarks, is to get rid of the stigma around opioid addiction. This addiction is not a moral failing. It is a medical issue, and there are medical ways that we can help bring you out of it, and it might even be a lifetime of recovery, but there are ways we can help you. And so it's getting the word out there that medication-assisted treatment and other forms of therapy are ways that we can help you recover. They're available. You just need to seek the help.
All right, very good. Secretary, talk to us a little bit about so you're a Department of Homeland Security involved in the border. There are a lot of illegal drugs, illicit drugs coming across the border. For me, close to home, fentanyl. Fentanyl is what killed my son. Coming from China, likely a lot of it comes through our southern border. What are we doing to stop that?
Yes, so first I just want to thank you all for being here. I want to thank Liberty University for hosting us. It's amazing. And President Falwell and Eric, thank you for pulling all of us together for this very important conversation. At DHS, we're trying to prevent all of the illicit opioids from getting into the country. So we do that at the source with agreements with our international allies. We do that at the border. We do that at sea with the Coast Guard. We do that at the border with Customs and Border Protection. And we do that through the airports with the Transportation Security Administration. What Eric mentioned, unfortunately, is the most difficult part to get at, perhaps, which is that much of the fentanyl is still coming from China through the mail. So the president, under his leadership, signed legislation earlier this year, the STOP Act, which for the first time will give every mail carrier, the U.S. Post Office included, the ability to pre-screen international shipments so that the Department of Homeland Security can identify the illicit drugs. So we are making progress. To give you a perspective, about a pound of fentanyl can cause 150,000 deaths. That's how fatal fentanyl is. So at the Department of Homeland Security under this president, we went from interdicting about 440 pounds at the border. We're now well over 1,700. The Coast Guard brings in tons of opioids every time they come back to port. And then at the mail facilities, we have all of our canine teams trained. Canines are actually quite good at detecting fentanyl. And so every single location where we sort mail has a team of dogs there that are there to protect you from opioids coming into our country.
First Lady, are you shocked by the amount of interest and the money that's being, the assets that are being thrown at this? I mean, I think this is the first time in history any administration has spent this amount of time, money, and focus on something so deadly. By the way, can we agree that this is the worst national health crisis in the history of America?
Yes, it is the worst crisis, and I think in the past years we didn't talk much about it, and it came so far that now we really need to step up.
Secretary, 133 people per day die of a drug overdose, primarily fentanyl or opioids, I'm sorry. That's like flying a 737 into a mountain every single day and everyone on board dying, and the focus on mostly young people. Can you give us an idea of the breakdown of who are the overdosing people? What's the demographic?
Well, the demographic is everybody. We've got about 12,000 in this arena right now. I hate to say it, but here in Lynchburg, that means one person will die of opioid overdose in this room every year. One person here will die every year in this group. So 133 Americans die every single day of opioid overdose. Now, largely, it's fentanyl. What happens is somebody gets trapped in the cycle of addiction from a legal opioid. They get cut off eventually. They then switch to street legal opioids, street heroin, street fentanyl. They may switch to cocaine. They'll then eventually get somehow a fentanyl in their heroin, fentanyl in their cocaine, fentanyl in a street antidepressant, something like that.
Or Xanax, in the case of my son.
Or Xanax. Fentanyl in a street Xanax. And that's the overdose. And sometimes, tragically, what happens is they'll go into recovery, and they'll get clean, and they'll come out, and they'll relapse into using opioids again. But their body has lost the tolerance, but they go back to using the level of opioid they were using before they went into treatment, and they die from overdose from that. That's why it's been so important that we've gotten overdose-reducing drugs out there. Over 250% increase in the supply of opioid-reducing drugs out on the street, in first responders and elsewhere since the president took office.
Narcan is a lifesaver, guys.
Exactly.
Secretary, there's a big concern among the public, people I speak to, that yes, you're doing what you need to do with the U.S. Postal Service, but what about the others? What about FedEx? What about UPS? What about the other private carriers that in the past may have been carrying drugs, even if they didn't know it, knowingly or unknowingly? What are you doing to stop some of that?
Yeah, so we actually have something at the department called the National Targeting Center. And what we do there is we gather as much information as we can about shipments, cargo shipments, mail shipments in advance from our international partners, the shippers themselves. And then that helps us target patterns that seem off, right, that cause us to question what is in the package, who is it being sent to. For example, if we see a tremendous amount of packages suddenly going from one location in China to a very small town in rural America, there's a question there, what could be in the packages. So it helps us to target and understand. I would also say under the leadership of the President and the First Lady, we have for the first time an agreement with China to begin to get the advanced information from China.
Are they working with us?
They are. They can do more. The President is working with them to assure that they do more, but this is the first time that they've agreed to provide that advanced information so that we can target better and understand what's in the packages.
The President to negotiate a tariff on the heels of working with us on their fentanyl production. All right, let's take a couple questions from our awesome student body audience here. It's Town Hall, after all. Can you tell us your name?
Hi, my name is Alana Rivera. Thank you for being here with us this morning. This topic is really close to my heart because my grandfather was a heroin addict for 12 years, and he went through a lot of different programs and never found help until he came through a faith-based program. And from that transformation, he decided to start another one and has helped over 20,000 people in the last 50 years. But we've seen administration change so much over the last 50 years where some people have been,
The question is?
Oh, the question is there anything that we can do as faith-based programs to get better partnership with the government?
You want to take that, Secretary?
Sure. Alana, thank you for what you and your grandfather do to help people who need recovery. This president is deeply committed to the role of faith-based organizations, not just in the opioid crisis, but throughout how we deliver services to our people. And for instance, in 2018, we are putting out $2 billion of grants for the opioid crisis. $1 billion of that can be used by states and given to faith-based organizations like yours to help deliver recovery and treatment.
Great. Take one more audience question if I can. What's your name?
My name is Derek. Good morning, Secretary Azar, for being here. My question is, so if I have a family member or a friend who is struggling with opioids, and often their first question to getting help is, I might go to jail. What are some resources and some ways that I can actually help them?
Well, first, I'd ask President Falwell to confirm this, but my understanding is here at Liberty, you basically have the ability to come forward and self-report without any fear of discipline if you feel that you're at risk from alcohol or drug addiction. And so that would be a step one, is seeking out any administrator here at Liberty, and they'll protect your privacy and get into recovery. The other is, if you've got a friend or colleague and you need help, 1-800-662-HELP, HELP. is the substance abuse hotline that we have at HHS, and we can direct you to local treatment and recovery services in your area.
Yeah, I think we have the number up, and you can certainly access that. I want to just point something out, that no town is exempt, no city, no state, no municipality is exempt from the opioid crisis. We have Christine Frizzell, who's the national correspondent for Sinclair, talking about exactly how these opioids are touching your hometown.
Can we help you out? Thank you.
From Seattle, Washington, to Youngstown, Ohio, to Providence, Rhode Island, and just about everywhere in between, it is a crisis that has gripped the nation. Images like this, an imprint alongside numbers that still seem unbelievable. Of the more than 72,000 who died of drug overdoses in 2017, a majority were caused by opioids. No region or age group untouched.
We typically will have somewhere between 3 and 5 babies in the NICU on a daily basis.
You're watching an event at Liberty University where First Lady Melania Trump is speaking, and along with HHS Secretary there, and Eric Bolling, the financial commentator from Fox News. Kirstjen Nielsen's also attending, the Secretary of Homeland Security. Alex Azar is the Secretary of Health and Human Services. We're keeping an eye on this event. Looks like they're watching a video. It's a live broadcast at Liberty University, so you see them all looking up and watching the video and hearing some of the narration there. We'll take you back there in a few moments when the discussion resumes. In the meantime, let's take a quick look out at the Benjamin Franklin Parkway. You'll see this camera bouncing around because of how windy it is out there. We are under a wind advisory right now, I believe. Here are your... No, that's not what I wanted. A little sluggish this morning. Current conditions, 38 degrees out on the Benjamin Franklin Parkway, looking up the street up the parkway towards the Philadelphia Museum of Art. Dew point is 19 degrees, winds out of the west at 21 miles per hour. Here's a look at some of your wind gusts at the moment. You see Philadelphia is at 35 miles per hour, 38 in Dover and Wilmington, and Atlantic City, 39 in Millville. So stiff wind gusts out there. If you're headed outside, make sure you bundle up. Prepare for that chill and the gusts that are accompanying it. Looks like they're in break again at the Liberty University Town Hall on the opioid crisis. Take you back there when they get started again. We're also watching for another event. This is a stakeout camera in the nation's capital. This is Senate briefing is occurring right now with Secretaries Mattis and Pompeo. Jim Mattis of Defense and Mike Pompeo, the Secretary of State. Their main topic is Yemen and Saudi Arabia, but sources note that the Jamal Khashoggi murder, Russia, and other topics will likely come up. The camera here is in the Senate subway. We're keeping an eye out for them, see if members of the Senate come out and talk after the briefing. We'll take you there if that happens while we're streaming. Going back to Liberty for a moment, looks like some of the guests are departing, some of the participants. It looks like the event there at Liberty is coming to an end. We have some of those other stories I mentioned earlier. Here is, let's get you out to this one. We could learn later today who the next Speaker of the House is going to be, and Nancy Pelosi is the odds-on favorite to hold the Speaker's gavel when Democrats take control of the House in January. But as Fox News correspondent Doug Luzader reports from Washington this morning, nothing is certain.
One thing no one debates around here, Nancy Pelosi knows how to twist arms and she knows how to count votes, but that doesn't mean that today's vote is going to be easy. And Nancy Pelosi has made her pitch, and today she may learn her fate. And there is a very strong likelihood that after today she will be well on her way to regaining the Speaker's gavel she has held before.
I happen to think that at this point, I'm the best person for that.
House Democrats will huddle on Capitol Hill behind closed doors to vote on their leadership posts. If Pelosi gets the votes today, it will be because she knows how to work deals, overcoming opposition from more than a dozen House Democrats who want someone else.
Once they took the House, things got a lot more complicated in that there isn't a clear person that everyone can rally behind who is different than Nancy Pelosi. She's consolidating her power, and she should be able to eke this out.
Ohio's Marcia Fudge had come the closest to actually challenging Pelosi, but she quickly folded after Pelosi promised her a committee post she coveted. And more Democrats are likely to fall in line when the full House votes for Speaker in January. So would the president be able to work with Pelosi? He has said he supports her bid, but it's not clear whether he sees her as a partner or someone he can effectively rail against. Either way, the lay of the land in Washington is about to change. Less drama on the Republican side, where the stakes are lower. Republicans have selected Kevin McCarthy to lead the new Republican minority in the House next year. In Washington, Doug Luzader, Fox News.
That was Doug's report on the latest in the Speaker's race. As far as business news, Apple offers an enticing trade-in deal, and Starbucks spreading holiday cheer. Fox Business Network's Tracy Carrasco has more in today's Morning Business Outlook.
The Dow up over 100 points yesterday. Stocks turned positive as the White House expressed optimism over the trade meeting with China at the upcoming G20 in Argentina. For a limited time, Apple is increasing the trade-in value on its Give Back program for older iPhones for people looking to upgrade to the newest 10R, 10S, 10S Max models. You can now get up to $150 back for an iPhone 6, double the previous trade-in amount, all the way up to $300 for an 8. You will need to buy a new iPhone during the trade-in process to qualify for the increased value. This comes amid reports of Apple suppliers cutting revenue forecasts over concerns that iPhone demand is slowing. Starbucks announcing the return of its Coffee for Life contest. Members of the loyalty program can enter for a chance to win one of 5 grand prizes. Free drinks every day for 30 years. That's worth more than $56,000 in coffee. The contest ends on December 31st. For more, log on to foxbusiness.com. In New York, I'm Tracy Carrasco.
I want to take you to a live feed that's coming in right now. This is Texas Rangers are currently assisting in a raid on the Archdiocese of Houston, Galveston. This began Wednesday morning around 10 a.m. The Montgomery County District Attorney's Office is heading the raid there in Texas. But again, we're told that Texas Rangers are assisting in this raid. It's being conducted at the Archdiocese of Houston. Video is coming to us courtesy of KRIV, our sister station there in Houston. We'll get more information to you as we hear about it, and we'll have reporting on this on fox29.com. and more on the Fox 29 News at 5, 6, 10, and 11. But understand that the authorities, led by Montgomery County, Texas there, are conducting a raid at the Archdiocese of Houston, Galveston. Not clear what the impetus is for that, but we'll try to get more information as the day goes along. Let's get you to some local news now. Chick-fil-A will not be on the menu at Rider University in New Jersey. School officials say they can't stomach the company's political beliefs. Lauren Johnson was in Lawrenceville this morning. Here she is with more.
You know the slogan, eat more chicken? Well, students can do that at Rider University, but they just can't do it on campus because administrators don't want to allow the fast food chain as a dining option. A survey was sent out in the spring to let students choose which restaurants they want to see on campus. Rider University had included the fast food chain, but then in the fall, they took it off the list. The school saying Chick-fil-A has some divisive beliefs and realized their decision can be seen as some form of exclusion of sorts, but they're hoping to be faithful to the values of inclusion for students.
If they
Sorry about that. Interrupted my own package there. Let's get you back to Lauren's report.
You know the slogan, eat more chicken? Well, students can do that at Rider University, but they just can't do it on campus because administrators don't want to allow the fast food chain as a dining option. A survey was sent out in the spring to let students choose which restaurants they want to see on campus. Rider University had included the fast food chain, but then in the fall, they took it off the list. The school saying Chick-fil-A has some divisive beliefs and realized their decision can be seen as some form of exclusion of sorts, but they're hoping to be faithful to the values of inclusion for students.
If they want to put out an email and say that, like, maybe their views don't align with ours and we want to make this message, then power to them.
It's absolutely ridiculous, in my opinion.
I don't agree with some of the things that they've done in the past couple of years. Right. But that being said, you know, I'm guilty of going to Chick-fil-A.
Everyone's so overdramatic about a chicken sandwich, like you just said, and they just need to get over themselves.
The Chick-fil-A is like 10, 15 minutes away. I'm not super upset about it. It would be cool to have a Chick-fil-A on campus. Yeah, sure, like to have it within walking distance, but I'm not crying over it.
So the Atlanta-based company sent a statement yesterday, and a spokesperson for Chick-fil-A says in part, we have no policy of discrimination against any group, and we do not have a political or social agenda. More than 120,000 people from different backgrounds and beliefs represent the Chick-fil-A brand. So we do understand the president here at the university says a meeting is planned. He wants students to be able to have a forum in which they can talk and share their ideas. So the Center for Diversity and Inclusion is planning that meeting. The details right now have not yet been released.
Again, that was our Lauren Johnson out on the campus of Rider University talking about the student dining options there and the school's decision not to engage Chick-fil-A in becoming one of those dining options. Let's get you another look at weather right now. Here's a look outside our Fox 29 studios. Current conditions, 38 degrees outside, dew point 19. Winds out of the west at 21 miles per hour. Comes a look at the gusts again. Gusts into the upper 30s in some parts of the area, 20s in others. So it's going to knock that 38 degrees is going to feel much colder with the wind chill. I think we have the 7-day forecast here for you. Let's show you that. Almost showed it to you in the middle of the last package. Blustery day, Wednesday, 42 degrees for a high today. We do expect weather by the numbers is a 7, or forecast by the numbers. Another 7 tomorrow, still breezy when it'll be a high of 45. Overnight low of 33, so right around the freezing mark. Friday, sun to clouds 45 for a high. We're calling that an 8 on our weather by the numbers. Saturday, PM rain 49. Sunday, much milder, 65 degrees, but you see the rain chances there for the home Eagles game. Monday, sunny and cooler, 55 degrees. Tuesday, chilly again, 45. So a bit of a weekend warm up there, the latter half of the weekend. Sunday topping out at 65 and then starting the next work week at 55. We'll be back in the 40s by a couple days into next week, which is where we'll spend the rest of this work week. It's French Toast Day, and we're doing what we do best, sampling some, and they're all different. Here's Mike and Karen with more from Good Day Philadelphia this morning.
It's National French Toast Day, so we brought in, you know how we do it on this show. We don't have just normal French toast. We brought in 4 chefs who have fancy French toast, starting with you, Carol. Good to see you again, Carol.
Good morning.
You've become a regular on this program.
Seems that way.
What's the name of your place?
Sam's Morning Glory Diner.
Morning Glory. How do you do French toast?
We do it very fancy.
Well,
all right.
explain.
This one is called Monkey French Toast because of the bananas and the mangoes. We caramelize the mangoes and the bananas in our own caramel sauce, and then we add it to challah French toast, and we have our own batter.
So you start with challah bread.
Challah bread.
Challah.
It looks like it's homemade whipped cream as well, is it?
And it's homemade whipped cream, of course.
Now here's the thing. You've got mango and banana in there. You like that?
It's delicious. Thank you.
Congratulations. Are you open today?
Every day.
Every day? Okay.
I did a breakfast with Bob from her.
Breakfast, I remember that. Yeah.
My favorite thing is
tell
their homemade ketchup. Okay,
Tell me
this
your
looks
name.
great.
I'm Chef Mac. I'm from Square 1682 restaurant.
Oh, I love that. Over at 17th and...
Over at 17th and Sampson.
17th and Sampson.
Adjacent to the Hotel Palomar.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Look at... This is fancy. Looks like it's in a wok.
It is a wok. It's one of our hammer steel woks. So this is our cobbler French toast.
Okay.
There's a little bit of braised peaches, some streusel on top, a little bit of mint, and some creme anglaise. Also made with some challah bread.
Challah! Wait, I have to get the creme.
Why do so many people use challah bread?
It's just a really rich bread. It's really thick, also dense. It's really good for like absorbing like the custard from the French toast mix.
Yeah. Is that a good seller?
That's a good seller. Yeah. It's one of our popular items on our menu right now.
Say hello to everybody over there. Okay. Who are you?
I'm Paulie Silva, coming from Co-op.
Where's Co-op?
Co-op's in University City. We're on 33rd and Chestnut.
All right. This looks extremely interesting. What is all the color on there?
Well, this is our cereal French toast. We use Fruity Pebbles. We serve that with malted milk ice cream.
Look at that.
Ooh, malted milk ice cream.
Yes, ma'am.
Those are Fruity Pebbles.
Yes, ma'am.
Embedded in the toast.
Yes, sir.
So did you just dredge it like we would normally do with our egg mixture, and you add a little vanilla to
so
it?
we use a creme anglaise, soak that up. We use brioche bread, toast that up, and then we have the cereal milk ice cream.
Does anybody use Wonder Bread, white Wonder Bread anymore? No. So what is it? Is it really sweet?
Let's go for it. I have a little bit of the ice cream. The ice cream was. Do you make the ice cream yourself?
Yes, ma'am.
Wow.
And Fruity Pebbles. Yes.
I'm not. I thought it would be too sweet.
Do we get the approval?
It's a party in
Right on. It's a party in It's a flavor explosion.
That's great. All right, down here on the end, who are you, sir?
Good morning. My name is Desmond. I'm the chef at Rose Petals Cafe and Lounge, and we're at 8120 Old York Road in Elkins Park.
Oh, Elkins Park.
Yeah.
Well, you came a long way, didn't you?
A little bit. We're glad
That's
to be
okay.
here.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for inviting us.
Is that a hamburger or is that French toast?
Oh, so today what we have for you, this is our maple bourbon chicken and biscuit French toast.
Oh my gosh.
I know it's a mouthful, both literally and verbally.
So what did you do with the muffins? How did you French toastify it?
Yeah, so we do two muffins. We have a cheddar biscuit muffin, and then we have our plain buttermilk. So today we have for you our cheddar biscuit.
Ooh.
And then we have honey glaze on the chicken, and then our compound butter, which is our maple bourbon butter on top.
Could I, if I were to be gauche and crude, pick that up like a burger?
I would. I would definitely wash your hands and go into it.
I just walked the dog, but I did wash my hands. Could you hold this then for me?
Absolutely.
It's worth it.
Go for it.
Oh,
That
my
is
God.
huge.
Is it a good seller?
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh. It's juicy.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a little bit
Look
of
at
kick.
this butter.
Yep. There's a little bit of kick to the in the muffins and everything. All of you did a great job. Chefs, thank you so good. We got Sue and Bob that are diving right in. They are all A+. Nicely done.
I thought you got you. Keep moving on.
It appears our Good Day hosts enjoyed themselves with the French toast samplings there this morning. I want to thank you very much for joining us this morning on Good Day Philadelphia. Remember, if you're headed outside, stay warm. It's pretty gusty out there. You can see this camera blowing around from time to time. You can certainly make out the flags there on the Benjamin Franklin Parkway. blowing around a bit. Stay warm. Have a great day. Happy Wednesday. And we'll see you back here after Good Day tomorrow for another installment of Fox 29 News Now. Have a great day.